this year, there are an estimated 11 million meetings a day in the US alone. And the average employee in a white collar job is spending a third of their week in meetings. And when you get to middle management, it goes up to half, and senior management, it's up to 70% of the week is spent in meetings. And the really sad thing is 90% of those meetings are 90% of people describe most of their meetings as being ineffective. That's painful.
Welcome back to Neuroconversant Leadership, where we talk about effective leadership and communication, especially in the STEM workplace. I'm Jeremy Doran, and my passion is to help great engineers become great leaders. Today with us, we have Chris Fenning. He is an award-winning author. He is a TEDx speaker. He's a coach, and he's only the second person to have multiple episodes on this podcast. Chris, welcome.
Jeremy, thank you very much for having me back. And being a return guest means we gave some real value in our last conversation. So I'm really excited to share some new and expanded things with your audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you come on one more time, you're going to get a gold jacket or something like that.
I'll send you my sizes. We'll get that sorted.
Perfect. Yeah, the first conversation was fantastic. And so I look forward to digging in more. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what it is that you do with your clients?
Absolutely. So as a recovering engineer myself with a background in aerospace and astronautics, I've now worked with people across the wide spectrum of industries and roles to help them communicate more effectively at work. And that's a really vague thing to say. So to be specific, what I do is I give people simple frameworks that help them improve specific communication situations. For example, if somebody struggles to be clear and concise, there are a couple of 3-part frameworks that can help them organize their thoughts and get to the point quickly. If somebody's struggling with inefficient meetings, whether the ones they lead or the ones they attend, there are some simple frameworks they can use to improve the effectiveness of those meetings. And that's what I do with my clients, whether it's one-to-one or in team training environments with organizations. I provide these simple frameworks, give them the tools so that they can go out with confidence and easily improve their communication.
I love it. You are talking my language and the language of this podcast. Both of those topics are perfect. Especially engineers are known for burying the lead. They are known for giving all of the background information before getting to what it is because they want to share. What is a framework you have for that, for helping them get to the point quicker?
All right. Well, first of all, it's always like this sort of oversharing is done from a position of really good intent. And any sort of bad reputation that engineers or techies have from non-engineers or techies is not fair, because it's not that people are deliberately thinking, I want to drown you in detail. It's often coming from a position of, I'd like you to understand this so that you're able to make an informed decision, so that this makes sense to you. I'm not trying to drown you in detail. I'm trying to help us get to a specific outcome.
And it's also that they're excited about it. It's something they're excited about, and they want and expect you to be excited about it as well.
That it can also be a big part. Yes. Hey, there's this cool thing. Let me tell you about it. And human nature is, first of all, tell me why I should care about it. How does your thing impact me? What do you need from me? What is it that in this conversation and in the broader scope of our work, our team, our organization, what does this topic mean? And so the framework for getting to the point clearly is there's two. So there's one to start the conversation, and then there's another to very clearly summarize something that's complex. So we'll start with the starting of the conversation because that's the beginning. And let's say I discovered this great new thing, and Jeremy, I was coming to you because you're my boss and I want your approval to work on this new thing. Well, that conversation can't start with me explaining the new thing in detail. It has to start with me setting up you for this conversation and telling you What are we going to talk about? Why am I talking to you about it? And what is the main point that I want to make? And so the framework is topic, intent, and point. It's TIP. It's a very simple communication tip. And it'd be, hey, Jeremy, I'd like to talk to you about this new code base that I've discovered. I'm looking for your approval for some time for me to work on it. I think I can save our team a bunch of time if we adopt this new code base. Can I chat to you about what I'm thinking?
Great. So it's short. Tell me what the P stands for again.
The point. What is the main point? And in that example, it was, I started saying, I found this code base. I think it can help our team and I want to work on it.
I love it. And then ask permission.
Yeah. And what we're doing is at that point, I'm checking, do you have time for the conversation now? I'm stopping myself by saying those three things and then stopping. I'm not just launching into a 10-minute description of something. And I'm also psychologically preparing you for the conversation. There's some real neuroscience behind this method, particularly around the intent part, the I in the tip. Because when, let's say you came to me and you wanted to talk to me about something, there's a short-term processing thing. It's called selective attention. The name's changed a little bit. Short-term memory is sometimes what it's called, but it's selective attention. And there's a 15 to 20 second buffer in our brains that subconsciously processes the information we're receiving to work out which part of our brain to trigger in response. Because if you're telling me a funny story, one part of my brain will fire up. If you're telling me about an emergency that I need to react to, a different part of my brain will fire up. And so we subconsciously have to work out where to process the incoming information. And if you don't tell me, hey, Chris, I want to tell you this funny thing, or, hey, Chris, I need your help. Can you answer a question for me? My brain doesn't know how to process what you're saying. And after a couple of minutes, we get to that moment where we go, why are you telling me this? Like, I don't get what this is for. I'm trying to process all the info and it doesn't make much sense. Whereas if we start with a very clear statement of, hey, I need your help. Heads up, you need to know this. Can you answer a question? I'm looking for something. Hey, can I tell you a funny story? Those statements tell the brains of our audience, the people we're speaking to, how to process that information. And then they are literally paying more attention.
I love that. And I know that I've been in conversations where it's a couple minutes in when I realize what the conversation's for. And then I either need to start the whole conversation over, or I need to take a few seconds to rewind and listen to the whole conversation so far so that it all makes sense in this new format or new program.
Yes. So that's such a good example. It's that's what you're talking about. I thought you were talking about something different moment. And that moment, you've just described the two things that we do that are both difficult and wasteful. You either have to start the conversation again. Well, you've wasted 2 minutes of a conversation. Multiply that by however many conversations you have in a week, and that's quite a lot of time. Like, that literally adds up. And the second thing you mentioned was where you sort of replay the conversation in your mind and try and reorganize the information. The problem is we suck at doing that. And it's back to that selective attention piece. That 15 to 20 second buffer can hold the last 15 to 20 seconds of what's been said. If we don't know how to process the information at that point, we just start dumping the data. And so our memory of the conversation is really patchy. Incomplete doesn't even cover it. So the idea that, I'll catch up in my mind, it means we're missing information, and that makes the rest of the conversation harder.
And sometimes the rest of the conversation doesn't even really happen, because at that point, the person's checked out. They're like, you've already wasted 2 minutes of my time. How can I make this thing just stop?
Oh, yeah. We zone into thinking about something else. And I find myself, I'm really guilty of this when I'm walking to school with my daughter. And this is a bit of a confession moment. We walk to school and we have often it's like one of my favorite parts of the day, but sometimes she's just in jibber jabber mode and she's talking and talking. And I will find myself after a minute or so realizing I'm not at all present in the moment, because I don't know what she's saying. How does it impact me? What does she want from me? It sounds interesting, and my brain goes to, oh no, there's this other thing. I start working on a problem, or have I booked the dentist for whatever, or I'm thinking about a work thing. And I have to pull myself back. I have to really consciously pull myself back to be present with my daughter. And I'm hoping she doesn't listen to this in the future and say, "Dad, you were never paying attention on those school journeys."
So
But it's
you prefaced it though with only once in a while, so that's good.
oh,
Even when she hears this.
excellent. Yeah, good. Aviana, it was only once in a while. But it's so easily done when it's not an interactive conversation. So take it out of family, and that's why I use my daughter and not my wife, because she does listen to these. Um, take it into the work situation. Someone's talking at you and you don't see what the relevance is. There are 101 other things to focus on. There's other demands on our time. And we will just start working those problems in our minds. And at that point, we're missing 90 something percent of the information that's coming to us. And that wastes time for both the person who's talking to you and for you as a listener. And the thing is, we do this when we're talking. So we're the ones guilty of wasting time for others as well.
And as parents, we get very good at aha-ing, where
Uh-huh.
you know when to say aha to make it look like you're listening, but you can be totally checked out. And if you take that into the workplace, it's catastrophic.
There's a partner. So what happened then? Or oh, it was so did that? What happened next? Those sorts of statements of yeah, that sounds tough. Or oh, all those small things. And some of that is a survival mechanism, because it's very hard to be fully present with everything that comes out of a young child's head.
Yeah.
But it's hard to be present on anything as an adult unless we understand how it impacts us. And that's why making the intent of our message up front, making it clear up front, is so important.
I know. I'll make a confession back. How's that? Sometimes if I'm very busy and stressed and someone comes to me and starts just giving me a bunch of detail, if I'm stressed enough, I will just nip it in the bud. I'll say, what do you want? And I know that I should have a better response. Do you have any tips for, if someone's doing that to you, how to gracefully get out and get them to state their point so that it can be more effective?
Yes. Yeah. Luckily, it's the same thing. It's the topic, intent, point method. But instead of being the one delivering it, you're listening for it and asking, basically fill in the blanks. So if after 30 seconds, 60 seconds is usually or socially acceptable, we feel a bit awkward interrupting before then. But a minute into the conversation, if you don't know what the topic is, if you don't know, like, what are we talking about? If you're thinking, why are you telling me this? Or what's your point? That's when you interrupt politely, but you interject, you interrupt and say, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what this conversation is going to be about. Can you remind me? And then you ask for the thing that's missing. What project is this relating to? And then they might say, oh, this is Project Everest. Great, thank you. I was confusing it with something else. So thank you for clearing that up. Please continue. Or if you want the intent, you say, hey, is there something you're looking for from me? Because I want to make sure I can respond appropriately. Oh, yeah. I need your help. And the same for the point. If they haven't got to the point, you can say, hey, so can you just let me know in one sentence what is the key thing we're looking at here? It sounds like you've got a lot to share with me. I'm just wondering what the headline is. You can ask for those things, and you're filling in the blanks on the topic, intent, and point for yourself.
I like it. So both people take responsibility for getting to that point.
Oh, yes. If anybody is frustrated with someone else who can't get to the point, well, take a little bit of ownership on that and help the conversation get to the point. It's not rude if you do it politely. You can use the tip method and be rude. You can just be blunt, direct, tone of voice can be off. You're like, oh, what are you talking about? What do you want me to do about this? Can you just tell me what the point is? That's not polite. But even just by changing your tone and softening the delivery, you can use those same words and be polite. So we all have a duty of care to stop the people around us wasting time. And the politer way to say that is to help those around us communicate more effectively.
Perfect. So the first time you were on the show, The First Minute had recently come out, but now you've just come out with another book. Tell us about that.
Yes, recently written the Effective Meetings book. Super exciting title, but really important topic because we spend a ridiculous amount of time in meetings. I've seen some quite surprising stats recently. This year, there are an estimated 11 million meetings a day in the US alone. And the average employee in a white collar job is spending a third of their week in meetings. And when you get to middle management, it goes up to half, and senior management, it's up to 70% of the week is spent in meetings. And the really sad thing is that 90% of people describe most of their meetings as being ineffective. That's painful.
It's horrifying. To be clear, when you say meetings, can that be a one-to-one meeting, or does that infer that there are multiple people there?
It can be a one-to-one meeting. The more people in a meeting, usually the less effective it is, but there's inefficiencies all over the place. The book I've written does not focus on sales meetings. There is a ton of great information out there. There's definitely some crossover, but I wanted to find the universal truth, the formula for making every transactional everyday meeting more effective. So I wanted to find it, and that's what I did. I went out and I looked at my own experience of over 15,000 meetings, many of which were painful. Some of those were my fault that it was painful, so I had some deep personal experience to draw on from having made it bad for other people. And I wanted to find a simple framework that would improve all the meetings. And I found it, and it's in the book. It's a 100-page book, very simple, very practical, and pretty sure we're going to talk about it in a moment as to what the framework might be.
Yeah, I love it. Meetings are something that just about everyone in corporate America complains about consistently. So I don't know if this is part of your framework or not, but let me start with, how do you know when you should actually have a meeting at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. Just before chapter 1, I've got a big red sign. It's a color printed book, which I had some fun with. It's full of pictures this time and diagrams. It just says, "Wait, do I really need this meeting?" Because meetings seem to be our default behavior now. Oh, I want to talk to you about something. I'm going to set up a meeting and invite 2 other people. Or we've got a problem. Let's set up a meeting. Or I want to come up with some ideas. Let's set up a meeting. And there are so many other ways to do our work. It doesn't have to happen in meetings. So how do you tell whether you need a meeting? Well, first of all, do you know what you want to achieve in the meeting? If you can't say what the purpose is, if you can't say what the meeting will produce, you're not ready for the meeting. The second thing is, does it need active input from other people? And I specifically say active input because information only delivery, that does not have to be a meeting. If the people in the meeting are not actively going to do something at that time with the information, do it differently. This meeting could have been an email. Well, send the email, or send a video message, or do a voice recording. Send some other method that people can consume, in their own time. You might set a deadline for it, but that's what you can do.
So when you say active, to me, it almost sounds like you mean interactive, where there's going to be a back and forth, and that's what will make the meeting more productive. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. If someone's just receiving something and they're not going to respond to it in real time, there are plenty of other better ways to do that don't interrupt people's workflows, particularly in a technical environment, because non-technical environments require deep work as well, but there can be a lot of smaller tasks. In a technical environment, there tends to be a lot more prolonged deep work where you have to concentrate to work through a problem in certain ways. Otherwise, all of the logic you've built up for that solution sort of blows apart, like disappears like smoke in the wind. And so meetings disrupt that, and they shorten the amount of time for deep thought work that is particularly important in a STEM environment. And so if there doesn't need to be interaction, then yeah, there doesn't need to be a meeting. If it's just delivery, doesn't need to be the meeting. And then that does lead to the third part, which is, does it need everybody to respond at the same time? Can it be done asynchronously? So let's say we're looking for ideas to solve a particular problem. Yes, there's benefit to getting people together in a collaborative way to problem solve, but you can also just ask people to contribute to a shared document. Hey, there's this problem. Anyone who's got ideas for how to solve it, can you write them in the document? They could do that in their own time. Some people might take 5 minutes. Some people might want to spend an hour, but don't bring everybody together and force them to be in a room for an hour if there are other ways to do it. So those 3 points for do we need the meeting are, do I know what I want to achieve and what the meeting is going to produce? Does it require interaction, so like active participation? And does it have to be done with everyone at the same time? If it's asynchronous, then find another method.
I love it. Generally, I think that many meetings should just be avoided. So that's when in doubt, don't have a meeting. That's my stance on the whole thing.
And the benefits are huge. Just incredible. So MIT Sloan Management Review did a study across 76 countries, tons of companies involved in this, about what happens if you have meeting-free days in your week. And they looked at what happens if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 meeting-free days, and what the impact was, the reported impact from the employees. And the results are, for me, they're mind-blowing. So for having 2 days a week where they're not allowed meetings, let's say it's Tuesday and Wednesday, no meetings, productivity was reported at being 72% higher. Communication and collaboration between teams was reported as being 43% higher. Fewer meetings, higher collaboration. And for all the managers out there, people reported feeling micromanaged 55% less.
Nice.
That is, I mean, the micromanagement one is obvious. Like, stop being all up in my business and I will feel less like you're trying to control me. But to have productivity go up by 72% by having 2 meeting-free days, and people report they improved their collaboration between teams by cutting meetings, that's like a miracle. That's what people are looking for. All these consultants looking to improve efficiency in business. 2 meeting-free days. That could be the answer.
To what do they attribute that? Why do they think that 2 meeting-free days improves collaboration?
Nice. I like when we get into the detail because it's easy to just put a stat out there and make it seem like it's good and valid. The improved collaboration was because people, when they needed to work with another team, then had to go and reach out to another person to have a one-to-one conversation to solve that particular problem, to get the information they needed, to get the decision. So it meant that people were proactively going to work with others when they needed to in a way that was more effective to get the work done. And it wasn't just forced.
Got it.
Yeah. And there was a second comment that came out as well, which is so many meetings have sort of a round robin where someone speaks and then someone else speaks, and then they sort of the status update reporting that teams do. Let me talk about finance for 10 minutes, then we'll talk about engineering for 10 minutes, then we'll talk about marketing for 10 minutes. That's not collaboration. That's usually not relevant to the other 8 people in the room. And it looks like collaboration from the outside, but it's actually not. So by removing that, it meant that the interactions between the teams were always relevant because they were set up specifically for a purpose that was relevant to both sides.
I love that. So now I'm thinking that I'm going to make 2 days of the week where I just have no availability.
Yeah.
And I can just focus. So to all you entrepreneurs and solopreneurs out there, that's something that you can do to help make yourself more productive.
I'd love to see the data, and I don't know if it's possible to find this in a really meaningful way, but does it also work if it's 4 half days? So there's no meetings in the mornings, meeting-free mornings, or meeting-free afternoons, or whichever. Like if you have the amount of time, so 40% of your week, but in big chunks, I wonder if that would make a difference. But a lot of it's probably connected to context shifting. So it can't, if you had 40% of your week, but all in different half-hour blocks, that's not going to help because you don't get that big, deep thinking time or sort of focused work time. But and I say this from the perspective as somebody who works for myself, the idea of not allowing the opportunity to talk to clients for 2 days a week makes me a little nervous about whether I'd be missing out on something. So if anyone listening has that data, send it across. I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I don't have the data, but I know for myself, having a whole day is very different from having multiple half days. And the way I relate it is I like running. And running 5 miles is sometimes easier than running 3, because when I'm running 3 miles, I'm already thinking about the end. And so I'm just trying to get through it. If I'm going for a 5 mile run or longer, then I just relax into it. And I know I'm going to be here for a while and I'll just be in this moment. And I think that's probably similar with having a whole day to just work on your projects versus half a day.
Oh, I really like that. I really like that. I think any of the project managers listening are thinking it's not possible because our lives are meetings.
Yeah.
But to that, and I spent years as a project manager and leading project managers, there are other ways to get things done, and particularly in that status update style meeting, have one-to-one discussions to get those status updates, and then only bring people together if there's a specific problem that everyone needs to address. If you pull 17 departments all together for a weekly status update, that information that they're hearing is not directly relevant to them for most of that time. So it's more of a burden on the PM, but less of a burden on all the stakeholders, and they will like you for changing that style.
So you kind of preempted the next question I was going to ask, but my question was going to be, and how do you know who to invite to the meeting? However, I will say first, if that is part of your overall process that's in the book, then I will either let you address the question now or talk about how it gets included in your process.
No, let's do all of that because it's very simple. I mentioned a while ago there is a framework, but I didn't share what the framework is, and it's topic, purpose, output. It's TPO, which some obviously having tip and TPO in the same podcast. Hopefully, they won't get too confused. But topic, purpose, and output is the 3-part framework that improves every single part of a meeting. That whether that's preparation beforehand, introducing it, keeping it on track, ending it, and following up. TPO, topic, purpose, output, is the framework that makes all of it better. And so here's how it relates to picking the right people and getting them in the room. If I wanted to set up a meeting, there's a topic for it. That meeting has a purpose. I want to have this group of people together to achieve a specific thing, to do a specific thing, whether that's make a decision, review a risk register, whether come up with a list of ideas. Maybe it's one project and I want to talk about 3 issues that are occurring. There's a purpose for the meeting. And then there's an output. By the end of the meeting, we will have produced a decision, a list, an updated risk log. There will be something that you could write down or print out that is a specific output. And it's, of course, very much related to that purpose. So as an example, Jeremy, I'd like you and your team to come together so we can talk about the main program that you're working on. The purpose is to update the budget based on the changes we just heard from finance. The output is by the end, we will have an updated budget for next month for your team. Topic, purpose, output. So now, if I put that in the invite, you'll be clear on what the meeting's about. And as the organizer, I can then say, who do I need to achieve that purpose and produce that output? And what is the smallest number of people I need to do that? And when I'm clear on the purpose and the output I'm going to produce, it's much, much simpler to identify the right people to do that work. If I'm doing a budget review with you and your team, I don't need people from a different team. So that whole, I'll invite so-and-so and so-and-so. No, it should all be intentional. I will intentionally include the people who contribute to the purpose and can produce that output.
I would love it if you changed it to topic, output, purpose, because you have tip and you have top, and you can just turn someone into a tip-top communicator, and I think that would be wonderful.
You know what? I, it would work because you can say the output. They don't have to be in that order. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I got to write an article on that because that's brilliant.
Perfect. What is the reason why people invite too many people to their meeting that may not need to be there?
There's two reasons we end up with more people. Three reasons we end up with more people in our meetings. One is, unfortunately, it's laziness and lack of thought from us as the meeting organizer up front. I want to do this thing. I'm going to invite anyone who I think might contribute. That's not intentionally considering who can contribute to that purpose and output. The second thing is historic precedent. Oh, this meeting has always included these people, so I will always include these people. So we're just following on from before. But again, that's lack of real thought and planning, which I'm calling it laziness. It's the human efficiency bias, but it's that lack of thought and laziness. And the third is an unfortunate consequence of being in a very connected digital world is you just hit the forward button. If we had a meeting in 1985, we would literally have to go and invite people, and we would physically send them an invitation to come to a meeting, or the secretary would call, or we would be calling and arranging. And there's effort required in getting people to come to a meeting. Now, you can just invite 100 people from the address book on one button. And it's so easy. So, so-and-so might be interested in this. I will forward it. And then we get back to that human efficiency bias, laziness, where we don't explain why that person should be invited. We're just, hey, can you come to this meeting? But without saying why I'm inviting you, why I think you need to be there, what you're going to contribute. Those things are missing. And it's not like 17 pages of description and justification. It's a couple of bullet points as to why it's relevant to that person and what they're going to contribute. And we don't do those steps.
So even though we can forward it, if you reached out to each person individually, even though it's over an email and it's quick, that would get you to stop and think about why you're inviting that one person, because it's the extra email you need to send.
Yeah. Even just write one extra line at the top. Hey, forwarding this invite because. But we don't do that. And here's the real crime. Have you ever received a pretty much blank meeting invitation?
Oh, yeah. And I refuse.
Oh, yes. Yeah, good. That's the solution. A blank meeting invitation, it astonishes me. I imagine it like this. If a colleague came up to you at your desk and said, Jeremy, be in conference room 2 at 10:30 tomorrow morning, and then they walk away, how would you feel?
Oh, nervous.
What did I do?
Yeah.
I'd feel a bit pissed off. It's like a court summons. You will appear before Judge Judy at this time on this day. Okay. But we receive blank invites. We wouldn't send a blank invitation to a dinner party. You let them know what to wear, what the event is. They bring anything, like some basic information. But we don't do that at work. We just, I'm just send this invite, come here, with maybe a slightly mystic line in the description or subject line. And it's so rude. Again, driven by a desire to be efficient. We've got a lot on. I'm trying to move very quickly. But it's, intentionally or not, it's rude to send blank invites. But that's what we receive. And it makes it impossible for us to prioritize when two meetings come in at the same time. Whereas if each invite included a clear topic, purpose, and output, you could say which one am I most valuable for, or which one do I need to go to the first half of or the second half of. Clear topic, purpose, output enables you to compare and make an informed decision. Whereas blank invites or very, very little information leaves you guessing.
It's interesting. You said that it's rude to basically invite people who don't need to be there and or not let them know why. But I think some of the times extra people get invited because you don't want them to feel left out. So I think it's almost the other way, that people are trying to be nice by inviting you when really they're not being nice.
Yeah, it's almost schoolyard. This is now so this human social side of, I don't want to make it seem like I'm leaving that person out. In that case, go ask them. Take 2 minutes to ask if it's going to be relevant to them. That's the outreach, whether it's a Slack message, an email. Or, astonishingly, you can still pick up the phone and talk to people. Just find out, because before you take an hour of someone's time, take 2 to 5 minutes to find out whether they can actively contribute or care or want to be there. Do you want to hear some fun, again, surprising, but some funny stats about what people do in meetings?
I do. Can I ask you my question first?
Oh, of course, yeah. No, this is not your show. How
So,
you're not allowed to ask me questions.
so you mentioned that if you have the information, then you can judge between two meetings. Sometimes neither meeting is worth it. Sometimes I think people don't give enough priority to their own time and their own projects. So you are comparing two meetings and deciding which one to go to, but I think you should be comparing whatever it is that you're working on compared to going to that meeting and make that judgment. So I think people should refuse meetings much more often than they do.
Oh, yes. Oh, it's so rare to hear that said out loud. But you're right. Absolutely right. If you don't feel that you can actively contribute to a meeting, again, it takes a little bit of effort. Ask the person organizing it if you really need to be there. We shouldn't make these decisions in isolation because there's only a limited amount of info, even in a well-written invitation. Go and find out. Say, hey, I can't quite see how I can contribute to this. Can you let me know what you're looking for from me, what you're expecting from me? And if the answer is, I need you for 2 minutes to confirm this thing, you then have the option to say, hey, I'm going to be doing something else, but I'll keep an eye on my Slack message if you want to ping me, or do you want me to contribute? I can write something up ahead of time, do it in a conversation, but spending an hour to be in your meeting to contribute to 2 minutes, that's, I have other things that are more valuable to be doing, but I do still want to help you out. Have a conversation. It's problem solving 101. Someone wants to do something, they don't get to dictate how that problem is solved. They get to work with you on what's the solution to the problem. And in this case, it's your contribution to their thing. It doesn't have to be a meeting. Stop defaulting to meetings.
I love it. I love where you're going with this. Now I want to hear some interesting statistics.
So the ones that surprised me the most come from virtual meetings. There's a lot of good things about virtual meetings. They get quite a bit of bad press, but there are lots of beneficial things. There's you don't have to walk to the meeting room. You can bring people together over a large geographical area. But the problem that we've just been talking about with being invited to meetings you don't need to be at leads to behaviors relating to what people do on virtual meetings. And a third of people self-reported that during virtual meetings, they are sitting and reading a book.
That's very specific.
It's really specific. Not just scrolling social media, reading the news, doing other work, other multitasking, but sitting and reading a book. That just blows my mind. Because the other multitasking I totally get. Like, I'm busy replying to other emails, I'm doing my own work, just sort of vaguely paying attention, if at all, to what's being discussed. But to be so disconnected that they're just sat reading, that tells me those people did not need to be in that meeting, but they didn't take the action, or they didn't feel that they could decline the meeting. So there might be a cultural empowerment piece for that, because it can be uncomfortable. But it should never be wrong to ask a question. So if anyone listening to this feels they get invited to meetings they don't need to be at, go and ask the organizer, hey, I want to make sure that I show up in the best way. Can you let me know what you need and expect from me in this meeting? And if their answer isn't something that you're going to do, can do, it's relevant for you, say that, and ask to be taken off the meeting. And maybe suggest that they talk to someone else who is better placed for it.
That's always a great answer. Rather than just saying no, but here's another solution is a much more palatable way to refuse going to a meeting.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm glad you said other solution, because I realize my answer might seem like you're just passing the buck to someone else and pushing meetings onto a different person. But think of another solution. Hey, you want my input into the risk log? Send me the link. I'll look at it and make sure I've added my notes by the end of tomorrow. There's an asynchronous way that many meeting purposes can be achieved.
I love it. I guess my last question, because we're getting up to the end of time. During the pandemic, when everybody started working remotely, I imagine that the number of meetings got cut way down. But then as technology with Zoom and everything else came about, it probably came right back up. Do you have any stats on the number of meetings that happened during the pandemic and before and after?
Yeah, when that brief moment of fewer meetings occurred for about 30 seconds. Almost immediately, the number of meetings went up, because people who were co-located then were trying to replicate that co-location, those quick stand-up meetings, those bumping into people at their desks, plus the panic of what on earth is going on. We need more status, and status means getting people into a room to talk about what they're doing, except they're not doing anything because they're in a room talking about the work that they should be doing outside of the room. So the number of meetings went really high very, very quickly after the lockdown, the go home from work happened, which added a huge burden to any family environment where they also were replicating the role of teacher and childcare in the home while trying to do meetings, which then meant more and more virtual meetings. So yeah, number of meetings went up a lot, and then meeting fatigue came in. Zoom fatigue became, I think it was one of the phrases of the year in 2020. It made it into one of the dictionary finalist lists. And that was we're spending so much time on Zoom in unproductive, unengaging ways that we were all exhausted, plus all of the social impacts and sort of global devastation that was happening at the same time. So meetings spiked, then they dropped as people just checked out, like, we can't do it. And then they came up to sort of a fairly similar level. But the trend over time is more meetings every year on year, going up, in-person, virtual, all going up.
It's like meeting inflation.
Yes, it is. We should invest in meetings now so that we get the compound meeting interest over the next 10 years.
Compound meeting interest. I love it. All right, Chris, I'm sad we need to start wrapping up, but how can people reach out and or learn more about you and your excellent books?
Yeah, so my website is my name, so chrisfenning.com, has a bunch of free resources on there, and of course links to the books. Books are available wherever you buy your books. You can get them online from anywhere. And LinkedIn is my social hangout. So if you have questions, do ask, because I reply to everything that I get as quickly as I can. So those are the three places.
I do recommend following Chris on LinkedIn, because he is often putting very valuable information on there. So Chris, this has been great. My very last question is, if there's one piece of communication advice we can all benefit from, what would that be?
Pause before responding. It's powerful for so many reasons, but even just 2 seconds, because we think 4 times faster than we speak, 2 seconds of pausing gives you 8 seconds of thinking time equivalent, and you can structure your answer. You can be a little more measured in your answer. You can be a little more accurate in it. So just pause and use that time to organize a thought before you then say it.
Awesome. I love it. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today again.
Oh, Jeremy, it's been a real pleasure to be back.
Thanks for listening. If today's conversation resonated with you, share this episode with one person on your team who might benefit from it. And if you're leading a technical team and want to explore how these communication principles could work in your organization, visit www.neuroconversantleadership.com to learn more. And there you can reach out to schedule an appointment. I'd be happy to talk through what might be going on in your world. See you next week.